Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and I'm excited. This review has been a long time coming. We're finally talking about the VZR Model One Audiophile gaming headset. Now, I found this at CanJam last year. Didn't even know about it. I thought it was much more expensive. Had a big banner, Audiophile headset. Couldn't believe what I heard. It actually sounded pretty amazing. Getting ahead of myself, but I wanted to get my hands on them, so I tweeted about it. I've been asked about this in the comments in the past. And now I am excited to finally share this with you all. So this retails for $350 US. You can buy it directly through VZR Audio or through an Amazon purchase link. I'll have both links below. The Amazon one's just a generic affiliate link, and VZR, I get no special kickbacks. I'm not doing anything special to get sales out of this, but I'll give you both options to buy it. Now, by the end of the, I know I'm going to talk a lot in this review. I have a lot to say about this headset, so I'm going to be using chapters. If you don't care for certain categories, I'll do my best to make it easy for you to navigate. So check out the chapters links in the description, or just hover over the little bar on the YouTube player, and hopefully you find the information you're looking for. With that being said, let's dive in. Now, even though VZR Audio is a new company, the founders are not. Vic, one of the founders, actually co-founded Red Rose Music with Mark Levinson. If you're into audio, you should recognize that name pretty quickly. Vic was eventually recruited by Steve Jobs to create the first audio research laboratory at Apple. Personally recruited by Steve Jobs. That's some pretty insane stuff. Now, the Model One comes with a carrying case that has a few goodies inside. So not only do you get the headset and the detachable mic, but you get the PC extension cable, which is TRRS, so I really like that. You get the breakout cable that separates your audio and your microphone channel. You get your 1/4-inch adapter, and then of course, like I said, the headset and mic itself. Now, some people may take issue with a gaming headset that doesn't have volume control. If you look at audiophile headphones, even $100 headphones, they don't have volume controls built into it. You use the device that it's connected to adjust the volume. It becomes a little bit of a challenge or gray area when you're using controllers. So Xbox and PlayStation. I feel like PlayStation is super easy to adjust the volume on the controller by hitting the PlayStation button. And on Xbox, you can do other things. Now, their theory behind this is the less stuff that you're doing to the enclosure of the ear cup, the less you impact the sound. And if they had to use a high quality volume adjustment, it would increase the price. And if they used a low quality one, it can start affecting the sound quality and create channel imbalances, stuff like that. So the reason why they didn't do that is to focus purely on performance and rely on whatever device you're connected to control your audio. Now, as far as build quality and comfort goes, if you were to ask me how much I thought this was as a gaming headset compared to my other gaming headsets, I would have guessed a higher price point, mainly because this headband construction is so robust. I mean, this is all metal, and it looks absolutely incredible. There's so much attention to detail in this. The carbon fiber on the ear cups is actually real carbon fiber. I know because I asked, and that actually has some sound benefits, but they wanted it for the stiffness and to reduce reverbs or resonance in the ear cup, which is pretty cool. Obviously, it looks cool. It has a gamer aesthetic and everything. But overall build quality is great. Now, there's no weird creaks or anything like that. The ear cups can actually spin indefinitely because there's no cabling going through the headset. These are just individual ear cups, and the cords go in both the bottom, and that's it. So this is a very high-end design. Now, the headband has a notch, which really is a nice little feature add if you're putting this on a headphone hanger or stand. It also helps if you have a hat like this. Even if you don't, having that little groove in the middle actually helps relieve some comfort because it takes away the hot point at the top of your head. So that helps with comfort, and it also helps that these are very thick memory foam headbands. So on the ear pads are absolutely massive, and they are extremely plush. I mean, crazy, crazy soft. And look how that memory effect, how nice that is. So if you wear glasses, that's not going to be an issue. The clamp force is medium on this, but if you wear glasses, you're good to go there. I tried several different frames and I could wear it for a long period of time. In fact, I know the co-founders wear glasses, so naturally they wanted to make a headset they would enjoy too because they use these extensively. Now the ear pads. Oh my God, the ear pads. The passive noise isolation, which means how much background noise I'm rejecting, is the best I've heard. I'm really trying to think if I've heard any headset or possibly even headphone that's had this kind of passive isolation. So when you put them on, they almost act like, protective earwear where you don't hear a lot of the background noise. They just block out so much exterior sound, even with the little vents in the back of the pad. Now there's also some really cool attention to detail as well. If you look on the inside of the headband, the left and right indicators or labels actually have a little like bullseye target logo on them. So it's just little subtle things like that. And then the metal just feels good in hand. I love the polish on the metal. It's just really nice satin finish to it. Just the more you look at it, the more you see that it wasn't just like a thrown together headset. Everything seems intentional with the way it was put together. So it's time for an audio lesson because this is the part where I feel like it's going to consume a huge chunk of the video, but it's super important to say. The way your ears work, this is called the pinna. The outer part of your ear is the pinna. In the shape of your ear, the size, the way all of your cartilage is unique like a fingerprint. Your brain has grown up with this particular shape, and you've used that to help localize sound. That's how you know how things are in front of you versus behind you, because the way audio is reflecting off your pinna and getting transferred into your eardrums based off phasing, timing of things, that all helps you understand where the objects are around you in your physical world, your space. So what gaming headsets can do wrong, some of them do wrong. There's a lot of things that impact localization on a headset, but some of them have too shallow of a pad. It's pressed against your ear. It's distorting your ear and therefore impacting the way your ear perceives those sound frequencies, making it harder to get good localization. Typically, headphones that have a deeper pad that has good separation from the driver to your pinna will preserve that ability to localize sound. Therefore, you get better audio performance. So shallow pad headsets, to me, typically do not have the same imaging that these do. Now, just because you have good padding doesn't mean you automatically get good imaging. Driver matching is incredibly important. Basically, both drivers should be producing, if the image is supposed to be dead center, both drivers have to be producing the same frequency at the same amplitude and phase. And the driver's behavior and how it interacts with the input signal, if it's identical and the source is supposed to be dead center, then it'll sound dead center. But if you have some weird phasing issues or amplitude issues, it starts shifting the object off axis or off the center point if that's where it was supposed to be. So VZR has a very tight driver matching policy of everything has to be under a decibel across the whole frequency range. Mine in particular was 0.2 at 85 hertz. 0.1 at 1,000 hertz, and I think it was like 9,000 hertz was 0.7 decibel difference. So it's incredibly tight, and that is, again, in addition to Crosswave and high quality drivers, that makes a huge difference for imaging along with the pads. Now, in addition to the deep ear cups, this uses something called Crosswave Technology. What a Crosswave plate does, or widget in this case, it goes between the driver and your pinna. It alters the dispersion and timing of audio frequencies coming out of the driver to more naturally interact with the pinna of your head. And that preserves your brain's natural understanding of localizing objects to another level. So you have drivers that are spaced, and he did a lot of math. When I say he, Vic, Mike was involved with some of this, but they basically they wanted to have a nice good separation from the driver to your ear, and then control the sound that's coming out of the driver to, again, maximize your understanding of those sounds. That is what makes this headset ridiculous for imaging and localization. So from a gaming perspective, even if you ignore the EQ, the price, build quality, pads, whatever, the idea of that alone is enough where if the rest of it's done properly is a game changer for competitive gaming. That's why I think you're going to see more of this in the competitive space, because Dolby Atmos, DTS, DTSX, you have Sony's 3D Tempest audio engine, or Tempest 3D audio engine. So you have all these 3D localization and rendering programs or processing programs on the source side, this has no DSP. They're not trying to beat or change Atmos. They're trying to leverage the source and replicate that as best as possible on the headphone in an analog way, which means it works with everything. And that does impact music listening too, even if you're not using Atmos, because again, you're controlling the dispersion of sound. It's going to create a wider soundstage. So the other reason why people like open backs is soundstage. It's open and airy, and you get better presentation in space of objects in your audio realm of understanding. And Crosswave, what it does is it lets you use a closed back, but still approach the openness in soundstage of an open back. Now, I'm going to be realistic here. I guess I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but this is not going to rival a $2,000 open back for soundstage. Those headsets are, you know, what, 5-10 times the price of this, and they're open back, but those have weaknesses because you don't have the passive noise isolation and all that other stuff. But for a closed back and for gaming, this is a massive, massive advantage. Now, I tested this headset on a lot of different devices and sources, ranging from my phone, my laptop's built-in sound card. I used higher end and entry-level stuff on the PC side from $100 to about $1,300 using my Denafrips R2R DAC with a THX amp. And then on the console side, I used this on PS5 and Xbox Series S controllers, several of them, just to make sure there weren't any weird things going on. And yeah, so it's a very versatile headset because they design it to be very efficient for gaming. You can plug this in with anything and you don't have to buy an expensive amplifier to benefit from it. Now, before I get into audio quality, sound quality, my perception of this, I just want to start off by saying the obvious. This is my opinion. I am discussing what I think the sound sounds like to me, my perception based off my experiences of music, my sources, etc. That doesn't mean I'm the end-all be-all. I'm just going to use it in how I compare it to other ones. You're free to form your own opinion, and you may completely disagree with me, for better or worse, after watching this. If you got this and tried it yourself, that's okay. We like different foods. We like different music. You can like a different sound on your headset or headphone. So I wanted to start by saying that. All right, now it's time to talk about sound quality, which is a little challenging with this one, and this is why I kept it for so long, is because I just felt like I had to listen to a lot of stuff to fully get the way these sound. So the bass on this is fairly strong. It is emphasized, and it does go into the mids just a little bit, but it's not tuned in a way where it, you know, especially on gaming headsets, you can tell when a gaming headset has a lot of bass and it has like a harder knock sound bass to it, and then it doesn't have a lot of oomph behind it. There's not a lot of heft to the bass. It sounds like a feeble attempt at producing a lot of bass when you get into more affordable gaming headphones. So these are more of a thunderous bass, almost like in a theater room where you have a couple subwoofers up front and you get that rumble effect. These do an incredible job at producing a full, digs very deep level of bass, because these are rated for 10 to 30,000 hertz. So the frequency response is there. And I measured it flat all the way down below 20, no problem at all. And the test that I got from VZR shows the same thing. So the bass gets extremely deep. Now, the mids, so when you get it, I'm trying to think of how else I can describe this so I don't leave things out. That kind of bass, this kind of bass is great for a lot of different genres of music. If you listen to jazz, which is one of my favorite genres to listen to on a headphone like this, the smoothness of the bass, it's like buttery, buttery smooth bass, really makes it feel more like a live presentation of the music, because it's not just headphones with a lot of bass. It's more like the room is presenting bass. You're more in the zone, in the experience. And really quick thing on that, usually when I get higher powered headphones like these, and typically on my Planars, when I turn it up with higher bass, you can kind of feel more the bottom of your ear vibrate a little bit. With these, because of Crosswave, I actually feel the top of the ear vibrate a little bit. So that does kind of back up the whole Crosswave tech and controlling where the sound comes out. I thought that was really cool. So anyway, the bass, it moves into the mids just slightly. It does affect the tone, again, just slightly. And I will say, again, this can all be EQ'd later. But the way this is tuned, I feel like the vocals take just half a step back from the rest of the sound presentation. This is prioritizing spatial audio and positional accuracy and awareness, I think, over pure analytical representation of music. It's not to say they sound bad. I don't want to sound like I'm being overly critical. It's just the way these are tuned. Now, you still get a ton of detail, but when you compare these to something like the Audeze Penrose, those just blast you with mids. I mean, like the voices are basically almost yelling at you to an extent. They have great mids. I'm not trying to fault it. But because of that, they lack some of the high detail and some of the low bass. So EQ can change all that. So the detail is there. I feel like this works well, especially when you get into like classical music or jazz where it has a piano. You know, the left side of the piano keys, typically the lower frequency keys, it has more heft to it on a headphone like this, whereas on most other headphones in this price range, it can start to sound more hollow or weak or shallow. It doesn't have the same kind of depth of frequency response. So this helps again with that whole live immersion feel. Now when you get into the highs, they're actually, I think the highs are extremely well tuned. This isn't an overly bright, airy sounding profile. It's very, very smooth. And I think from a gaming perspective, I've said this I don't know how many times lately. I've been fortunate enough to review some good headphones lately. I liked smoother over overly bright and sibilant because you get ear fatigue if the headset's too bright and sharp sounding. So it's kind of like some gaming headsets is like taking a shot of espresso versus this is more like sipping a coffee. So this, you can kind of just consume it much longer at the same volume and not have like, you know, ear pain or discomfort or anything like that. But the detail is still incredible. It's just not crazy, crazy bright. It's also not dark sounding either. It does still lift up in the upper frequencies compared to a flat reference line. So it follows the Harman curve a little bit. It's just their own, you know, version of that. So overall, EQ wise, I'd say this is a warmer sounding headphone. I wouldn't say it's dark. It may seem a little bit, you know, even or flat towards the upper end because it's a little bit warmer down bottom, but the detail is still excellent. I think the only spot where other headphones you may like more is if you want the vocals to take the lead at the sacrifice of bass and highs, for example, or a big sacrifice in the bass. This is just a little bit more V-shaped, but man, they have some serious, serious power to them. Now, when it comes to Soundstage, I alluded to this earlier, the Crosswave, this is where the headphones do their magic, and that is how far it can place objects in your virtual space, your holographic presentation. So if you close your eyes, you know, some headphones, they're more localized. You know, you close your eyes and everything sounds like it's in the center of your head, and you know exactly it's left, right, middle. The way these work is you get a much, much wider distance. You like that hand effect. It pulls things out further. Typically, you don't get this kind of soundstage with a closed back. You have to go to an open back to get that. But again, there's drawbacks to that depending on your environment. So the magic with these is the soundstage. I cannot stress that enough. They freaking crushed it when it comes to that. It's odd because it can get closer to feeling like there's multiple speakers in each ear cup. Even when you listen to live performances, binaural recordings, or just a really well-recorded stereo track, everything just kind of has its own little space. It doesn't feel like it's just left or right. And to me, that's where the magic happens. And again, especially if you're on the whole live music thing, it really helps a lot at conveying that. Now, from a gaming perspective, let's just start with that. When I go on the competitive side of audio, I usually try to play Call of Duty Warzone or Apex. And in Warzone, if you're not familiar with Warzone, if you die in that game, it's Battle Royale. You typically get 1 life, but they send you to the gulag if you die. Now, if you win gulag, you can respawn. There was a limited time mode, and gulag is just a 1v1, you against another person that died. If you get them, great. You keep playing. The other person, their game's over. So there was a limited time mode where if you won gulag, you could respawn. If you die, you get to keep going back to gulag. Instead of getting 1 chance, you can just go there indefinitely until either gulag closes or you die. I was having a bad night one night in the actual map, Caldera. But when I was wearing these, I won 7 gulags in a single game. And that was because of these. And I called VZR the next day. I'm like, guys, this was like mind-blowing to me. I'd run forward and crouch and then just wait. And I could hear exactly where the person was coming from. Pre-aim, boom, done every single time. It was so consistent. And the only reason why I lost that game is because I couldn't clutch it once gulag closed. Again, rough night. but the positional accuracy of this was just seriously insane. I've never heard a gaming headset or any closeback give me this level of advantage on gaming in that regard. Now, some other headsets are brighter. They sound more crispy, more sharp. If you need all that, I guess you could EQ this too, but I just want to say, don't feel like because it's not overly crispy or sharp that you're not getting the detail and the information you need, because that's not where footsteps are. They're not up top. They're actually at the lower frequency. So these have a natural ability to excel with positional awareness. So if you're using this for FPS, this is about as good as it gets, especially from like an esports perspective where you have to deal with background noise because this has all that rejection. Just absolutely bonkers good. Now, movies. So my review is a little late because I went to finish up my audio demos again. I always like to listen to it as much as I can right before I film again. And I rewatched Blade Runner 2049, and which is an amazing audio track on that movie. And I was like, holy crap, this sounds too good. And I had it on the whole Dolby Atmos virtualization on flat EQ, ended up watching the whole movie because I just got sucked back in. And the immersion you get with a headphone like this that does that kind of virtualization, insane. So the movie experience, it really doesn't get much better than this for a movie watching on headphones, because you get that that virtual soundstage, if you will, with the bass presence that I was talking about, that thunderous home theater bass. The only headset that under 500 that's given me that kind of a bass feel was the EPOS GSP 600 series, but they didn't have the same soundstage and imaging that these do. So these are more almost like wearing ear speakers than just regular headphones. It conveys more of the space of a room, so I like that. Again, when it came to music, I kind of mentioned this with the EQ side of things before, but you know, the big kicker is when you get something that's designed to take advantage of a left and right pan. These do that really well, and then when they want to go dead center on the audio production, this is like a laser, like the spot center of your head. If you can measure where you think it was coming from, it'd be within like 0.1 millimeters dead center. So they do, again, the imaging side of things on music. It really has good channel separation, and I found that I enjoyed almost every genre I listened to. I did want to EQ it slightly for certain like EDM or hip hop to better suit that. But when I did and I switched genres or tried something else, my EQ didn't sound as good as flat. So you may want to mess with that a little bit. It's much easier to slightly alter EQ than it is to fix comfort, build quality, and imaging. You can't fix that because that can be a physical limitation of the design of the headphone. So I just want to leave that out there. But overall, sound quality is fantastic, especially at this price range.
All right, now I'm talking to you on the Model One headset mic, and the gain on the Schiit Hel2 is set to about 55%, just a smidge over dead center at noon. And the microphone sensitivity is decent. Now, this sounds pretty darn good, in my opinion. This is, you know, about what you'd expect from a decent quality gaming headset, and I think it definitely exceeds what my expectations were. Now, the sensitivity works fine here on the Schiit Hel2, but I did notice that on Xbox, the sensitivity wasn't quite high enough for me if I'm playing at night. So if you are gaming at night and you only play on Xbox, I just want to warn you now, this microphone pickup might not be strong enough for you. On games like Warzone, you can boost the audio to compensate. So there's actually a microphone gain setting in audio on Warzone, but not all Xbox games have that feature. So if you're lacking that or use Xbox Party Chat, this may be an issue. That's again as of May 2022. This could change later if Xbox does an update and adds gain. On PS5 it was totally fine. You can boost the microphone gain in the PlayStation and there was no problem there. And naturally on PC this sounds great, no problem. So I think it actually sounds quite nice.
Now there's actually also a microphone built into the core. This is a backup mic, so if you take the boom off and you're traveling but you want to make a quick call, you can use this little secondary mic. It sounds fine. It actually sounds really nice here when it's up front near my voice, but where it's supposed to hang, it'll obviously be quieter. And this is how it would talk when you're wearing it normally. So if you're in a bind and you're on a call, you can naturally pick it up and talk to it. But those are both microphones. I actually think they both sound pretty decent. Now, obviously, there's some big, very popular gaming headsets out there. To me, the benchmarks have always been like the Drop PC38X, especially from being purely analog, open back gaming headset. Then you have the EPOS H6 Pro, which gives you closed and open back variants. And then you have the Penrose slash Penrose X, Mobius from Audeze. So the Audeze line, so that's a planar magnetic closed back at $300, still cheaper than this. That's wireless with Bluetooth. And then when you get to the Drop PC38X, that's open back only. So some people can't use the Drop PC38X because it won't work in your environment. I will say that the soundstage of the PC38X is phenomenal. It still is the reigning champ for value versus soundstage. It has a very neutral tone to it. The bass is underemphasized, so if you want bass, the PC38X won't be great for that, but it has a nice airiness to it. So if you're looking for soundstage on a budget, it's great. And the microphone's pretty good too. The downside of the PC38X is it lacks all that bass I was talking about, and because it's open back, obviously you don't get to block out your environment much, so you can't use it on esports. But it also doesn't have the same power handling as all the other headphones. The PC38X, when you start turning the volume up, the driver struggles a lot. It's a smaller driver and it does not keep up with the bass notes well, and there's audible distortion. So at medium volumes in a quiet room, it's great bang for your buck, but not on an extreme power output level, not for loud environments, and it doesn't have that bass response in case people are looking for that. Now the EPOS H6 Pro is kind of in the middle. So the open back version has a little bit better bass response than the open back PC38X. However, it doesn't have the same airiness or natural tone that the PC38X has. So you kind of have to choose where your balance is. Now the H6 Pro makes a closed back version that has excellent bass response. It has pretty good detail as well. It sounds great, but it doesn't have the soundstage of the open back variants or the Model One. So the only closed back I've discussed so far, it loses out on the imaging and competitiveness from a soundstage perspective. Then you get into the Penrose and Mobius line from Audeze, $300. I had a huge mixed bag of results with this. Now, admittedly, the mid-range on the Penrose-based planar magnetic or Mobius-based planar magnetic headphones, the mid-range is phenomenal. It is super clear. Vocals sound amazing on it. It doesn't have the same bass. Even though it's good bass, it's fast bass, it doesn't dig as deep or have as much heft to it. And the highs can be a little bit dark, or sometimes, depending on how it's tuned or what profile you're in, it gets very sharp very quickly. So audio-wise, it's good for certain things, not excellent, but I actually found the soundstage on that to be one of the worst of all of these headphones I just mentioned. It has a very shallow ear pad. It actually does squish in on your ear pinna, if you remember that earlier. The Penrose puts pressure right on your ear. It has a very high clamp force and shallow pads. So you lose a lot of that image and soundstage as a result. It sounds great, it just doesn't sound open and airy. And then I had a lot of issues with bugs, you know, like audio pops, wireless disconnects. When it's on and the Bluetooth transmitter's on, you hear a little buzzing from the left ear cup. So there's some shielding issues too. So those are the most popular ones. Now, when you compare it to much more expensive open backs, the $500 Hi-Fi-Man Edition XS, to me, is probably the best musical headphone in the $500 price range right now. That has great soundstage. Great for music. It doesn't have as much bass as the Model One, but it also doesn't have a mic, and because it's open back, you don't get the benefits of closed if you need that. All right, so that wraps up the review. You made it to the end. I warned you it was going to be a long review, but I'm excited about these. There's just so much to explain because this kind of opened my eyes, or my ears, I guess. I just didn't expect it to do what it did as a closed back for the soundstage. And then that bass presentation that gets me like, you know, like the IMAX theater level bass. And it's a really special headset. There's a lot of good gaming headsets out there. They sound like a good gaming headset. This just is a more memorable experience. It's not like much I've experienced before, especially when you consider the imaging you get and soundstage you get as a closed back, coupled with the punch and slam that a dynamic closed back typically gives you for bass. So it's a really innovative approach, and I wasn't blowing smoke earlier. That stuff in Warzone is no joke. I really think you're going to start seeing these in more game studios. I think you're going to start seeing this in hopefully future esports types events, because the way these block out noise passively and the sound performance you get and spatial awareness, this is a game changer. And I hope this review helped you decide if this is the right headset for you or not. It's seriously remarkable what they were able to accomplish with this. Is it going to replace a $2,000 open back planar magnetic for critical music listening? No. But it's $350. Doesn't mean you're not going to get a great listening experience. And the fact that a closed back can give you that level of spatial awareness and openness is pretty awesome. So I love these things. You'll probably be seeing me wear them in future streams, or for other reviews, you'll probably see it in the background quite a bit. But anyway, I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, shoot me a comment below. I'll do my best to answer it. I know for a fact I'm going to be deleting some of the stuff I said because I talk way too much. And anyway, thank you again, as always. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. Talk to you later.